Now that set 8.5 has launched, you probably are out there playing the game and looking for all the new lines and fun ways to play. And if you're anything like me and you're jumping into this not exactly knowing what the meta is and what's changed since the last patch, chances are pretty good you're looking around some of the popular websites for comp lists that can help you figure out how you want to play the game and what units you want to play, what items you want to make on them and all of that. And so we're back with part 2 of my You're Using Guides Wrong series, with a couple more tips for how to use guides effectively. Now, in the last video, I talked about how guides are meant to be guides and not rule books, how they can sometimes prohibit us from playing flexibly and using our creativity to find better ways to field our units, to build our items. And speaking of items, I also touched on best in slot being kind of fake and how sometimes slamming items that are suboptimal is going to be better for you than greeting out for the best items for all of your different units. If you want to go watch that, of course, the link is down in the description below. I highly recommend that you go and check it out. And while you're here, if you could drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, obviously that's super helpful. All engagement for a small channel goes a long way to pushing us up in the algorithm and getting us seen by more people. So anyway, on to tip number 3. Guides can't teach you how to deal with low rolling. Now, TFT guides have come a long way. Lots of them are going to give you early, mid, and late game boards to shoot for, instruct you on when to roll down and when to econ, what items you should try to make, what augments you should try to take, and even what early game situations should make you consider playing a given comp. Good guides will give you a step-by-step guide of what you should do and when you should do it to help you best hit your units, slam your items, and win the game, hopefully. No guide that I've ever seen anyway tells you how to survive getting mort dogged. So you're playing the supers reroll Vex or whatever reroll thing is broken right now, or you're shooting for level 9 to cap your board, or you've got best in slot items for your front line and your 4 and 5 cost carries later in the game, where you look around the lobby and supers are super contested, or 2 other people have already hit your carry, or you roll 50 gold on 7 and you just completely whiff an uncontested unit. A great skill to have in TFT is knowing when you're playing from behind, knowing when you can't keep up with the tempo of the lobby and you need to try to play for 4th place or even 6th place and just avoid that top 8 finish. Maybe your econ got griefed by an unexpected win on 2-6 and now you're 70 HP. You have no lost streak gold and you have no way of upgrading and stabilizing your board through stage 3. Maybe you have a few upgrades, but there's no way that you're 3-starring that key unit that you need for your reroll comp. Do you know the potential outs for situations like this? Using the example from the previous video, if you're aiming to play Samira and you realize 2 other people now have Samira and it's 3-3 and are building items for her, you have the choice. Do you commit and contest these players that are now ahead of you? Or can you pivot into something else? And what other units can hold Samira items that aren't as contested? In 8.5, a good player might point to Belveth or Jin, Vayne, or Warwick as potential pivots out of that contested line. As a threat AD carry, Belveth is a natural and easy pivot, but she often relies on a secondary carry to supplement her damage, which falls off hard in the late game. Do you know what units pair well with her? Do you have tank items, AP items, AD items? What direction might those point you in? Look around the lobby and see if Rift Walkers or Duelists are contested. Have you checked your admin yet? Maybe that Warwick Brawler admin hacker comp might work out better for you. Depending on the meta, these comps may or may not have as high a cap as your original plan, but would you rather hold hands bot 4 contesting others or scrape together a 4th, take your 10 LP and move on to the next game? Maybe your augments and items are just too good to not play Samira, and others hit copies of her early, but you're ahead on econ and you'll be able to level and roll into a 2-star potentially ahead of the lobby. A pre-made comp guide isn't going to teach you to identify these scenarios and make correct decisions, let alone provide you with pivots in case you're not able to make it work. However, the skills required to make these choices, scouting, understanding your position and strength relative to the lobby, understanding your items and their uses, are all fundamental skills that any serious player must master. When you follow a pre-made guide, you're running the risk of neglecting these skills and getting frustrated in your climb when things don't go the way you planned. However, if you do learn these skills, you'll be prepared for far more situations and be better adapt to the lobby and situation on a game-by-game basis. This will lead to way fewer 8s and more top 4s and an overall faster, smoother, and more competent climb. And speaking of fundamentals, final tip, guides don't teach you fundamentals. So you're at 2-1 and you open your favorite site to find the best comp to play with the opening items that you got. You pick one, you skim through it, and while reading, you see the following words. This comp uses the standard leveling strategy. You might say, what now? If you don't know what that is or why it's standard, a guide isn't usually going to tell you. I found that most guides assume that the reader has a certain basic understanding of the game, and also assume that if you don't have that understanding, it's enough that you just follow along with what they say. I would even say the guide I'm making right now assumes a certain amount of knowledge of the game. I'm not sitting here doing completely TFT 101. Even if you're a silver or gold player that generally understands that there are certain times you should level, roll, save gold, do you actually understand why you do these things at 2-5, 3-2, or 4-1? Do you know what an actually stable board looks like and how to tell if your board is stable or not? Do you know when and why you might roll to 0 and how that might impact the rest of your game? As I said at the start of the first video, TFT is a daunting game. There's an enormous volume of information to take in, and every new patch, let alone new set, introduces new things to learn, new changes in your understanding of the game that must occur if you want to climb successfully. A guide can help you in a given game at a given time, but learning the fundamentals of TFT is going to help you with every comp, every set, every update, every time. How much time have you spent reading guides without necessarily really learning anything? Would that time have been better spent learning those fundamentals, practicing them, and applying them to all the comps you might come across? When I started playing TFT in Set 2, I definitely used guides frequently. But the tools that helped me reach Diamond and eventually Master weren't knowing which guide to follow each game. The tools were learning to econ, learning to scout, learning when to slam items and when to greed for them, learning when and how to pivot, learning tempo and when I'm playing ahead and behind and what to do in those situations. Back to that leveling strategy. Standard leveling strategy for a 4-cost carry comp has us leveling at 2-5, 3-2, 4-1, and either 4-5 or 5-1 depending on our situation. These thresholds are usually when we have enough gold to level and make our board stronger, increase our odds of seeing higher tier units, and still leave us some gold left if we need to roll for upgrades to make a stronger and therefore more stable board. If you simply level at these intervals but don't know your board strength relative to others in the lobby, you may find yourself frustrated and surprised. I leveled when I was supposed to, I put the units in that I was supposed to, you say, not realizing that you don't have upgrades, you don't have item slam, and your board isn't as strong as you think it is. A guide isn't going to teach you to read these situations and make correct decisions beyond that basic information given. But these skills, this knowledge is absolutely essential to climbing into higher tiers of the competitive ladder. Each new set, I've been able to focus more and more on mastering another of these fundamental skills, meaning I could climb to master faster and begin learning the micro decisions and skills that are required to reach the highest echelons of play. I'm able to make flexible decisions, try more fluid and dynamic comps, and pivot more quickly and efficiently than I have in the past. This is because I put in the time to learn these basic skills, usually from guides to fundamentals from top players rather than guides to comps. Comps come and go, but fundamentals are, well, you know, if you're serious about getting better at TFT, you'll learn to blend all of these ideas together and use guides more effectively. I still sometimes quickly glance at a guide for a comp I've never played before to understand what units work well together in lines I'm less familiar with, without feeling stuck on a single out with no other options. With good fundamentals, a good guide can be very helpful, giving you lots of information in short order that you can effectively apply to your immediate situation. Conclusion. Comp guides can be helpful, for sure. They definitely have their uses, but they're never going to give you everything you need to know to get better at TFT. You can find tons of helpful tutorials on each of the fundamental skills, as well as intermediate and advanced skills all over YouTube and Twitch, and I'll link some down below that have been helpful for me in the past. Have you ever wondered why best in slot items are best in slot for each unit? Do you know how many good items are actually bad when you put them with other good items? Do you know how to read the tempo of the lobby and play accordingly? These intermediate and advanced skills tutorials can help your game go even further beyond. If this guide helped you in some way, please make sure again to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and drop a comment below with how it helped. And hey, if there's something that I missed, make sure to mention that down below as well. Good luck, Godspeed, and Amort.